Alright everyone, it's time to talk about Twitter banning criticism of religious groups on the platform because it's like, well, what are you going to talk about on Twitter at this point? Last night I unleashed a tweet storm actually. Basically it's like, if you have to be silent about one of the most dumb things, which is organized religion, I'm not talking about spirituality, atheism stuff. Believe in a god, believe in spiritual things, but organized religion, like the idea of having a dispensation from a religious figure telling you what to do, or a dogmatic sort of scriptural thing that you follow to the letter of the law because that's what you were born into, it's dumb. You can't criticize that, I guess, on Twitter anymore if you're naming a specific group. So you could say, like, for example, I guess under their new rules, which are stupid, you could say, like, religion is dumb. But you couldn't say, well, Islam is dumb. You couldn't say Christianity is dumb. Well, actually, that will be unenforced. And that's the crux of the problem. The problem is that there will be differential enforcement. If you're attacking Christianity, I'm sure Jack Dorsey does not give a shit. He's not going to care. You're not going to get banned for it. You can say whatever you want about Christian figures, the saints, and Jesus, and whatever. You can say whatever you want. You'll be able to attack atheism because, of course, they never get protected either because Salon and Vox and all these groups run articles about how it's too male and there's like white nationalist overtones, which they have. They've done the same with paganism, so don't expect for pagans or occultists to be protected. This is essentially for Islamic and Jewish users on the platform. Let's just be quite clear, that's why they're implementing this. That's why Jack Dorsey would be interested in such a thing. The idea of criticism of religion, my goodness, I can remember 5 years ago, people on the left were doing Draw Muhammad Day. Now they've clammed up. They don't want to admit that they ever took part in such things. I took part in that. I had a great time. I think that it's wonderful. Remember the Garland shooting there where they had a display of art about Muhammad? And there was an Islamo-fascist that showed up to attack, and then, like, the mall cop fucking Texan there blew him away. And it was, like, considered hilarious, because it's like, they didn't even need to call the actual cops. Literally, the the part-time private security guard took care of the situation. Another time where a well-armed American stopped a mass shooting over religion. But, that happens. It's very, very funny, though, because so now Twitter is saying you can't argue about politics, because you'll get banned if you do, basically. You can't argue about religion now, and basically, like, if you have a disagreement with anyone and it gets more than a little bit heated, you get banned. So, what's there to do on Twitter? The reason why Twitter became popular is because it became a dumpster fire of people flaming one another, basically. That's the only reason people use Twitter. Like, I use Twitter for two purposes. It's fun to piss people off and a notification machine. If I get suspended from the platform tomorrow, it's not going to affect me in any meaningful way. I can post that same stuff on Minds or Gab. It doesn't matter. Twitter's stock has been collapsing for months now. It's basically a dying platform. Jack Dorsey is running it into the ground. And I commented, and I thought this was funny. Because remember, he got criticized for this, actually, even by some of his fans. Like, years ago, he went to, I guess, Burma to, like, go to a meditation retreat. And people thought it was funny that Jack Dorsey, he has this, like, pseudo-intellectual Gen X bullshit on his mind, where he talks about, like, how enlightened he is, basically. And he reminds me of the sort of person, they westernize Buddhism or Hinduism or something. They appropriate that religious belief, change it around to fit their workaday fucking schedule, and then smoke a joint and they think they've achieved nirvana or something. And that's basically, that's sort of what it's about. But people were criticizing him because he's like, oh, you went to one of the biggest human rights abusing countries to mill around in your upper middle class sort of meditation retreat while people were butchering each other probably outside the walls, and you wandered around a little bit and meditated and ate vegan food, I guess, and now you think that you've achieved some sort of great spiritual enlightenment. And it appears that he's egotistical enough to think that. It's also he's egotistical enough, and I pointed this out, to think that Twitter, a platform that's been around for what? 12 years or something like that. He thinks he's egotistical enough to believe that religions that have, survived for several millennia in some cases need his help in order to maintain. That might be true. It's funny, the big tech giants now are doing exactly what the far left has been doing, which is finding religion. Oh, we gotta prevent people's bad feelings. We gotta prevent bad speak about this fucking superstition from 2,000-3,000 years ago. Where are you going to protect smaller religious groups? They never get protected. Like the 10, Hellenes in the world or something that worship Diana or something like that. That's not going to happen. What about irreligion? What about criticism of religion? What if someone's a Pastafarian? I bet they won't be protected. So if you see someone with a spaghetti strainer on their head on Twitter and you laugh at them for that, I guess you get suspended. Or is there going to be differential enforcement, Jack? Criticism of religious groups. Fuck religion. Religion is a cancer on the ass of the world. Organized religion, anyway. Spirituality is just fine. Belief in like a god or a basic religious principle is one thing. The problem is you get all these crazy clerics and fucking rabbis and priests and stuff that say weird shit, and they do weird shit, and they deliberately, they're snake oil salesmen. And like they take spiritual truths, wrap them up in a book along with a bunch of human opinion and lies, and then they sell it to you. And that's what religion is. Religion is a sales scheme. It's a charlatan sort of thing. It's a legalism that's overlapped over things that should never have been legalistic in the first place. Human experience in the spiritual sense being totally free and totally libertarian, properly understood. People should do what they feel is right. If they think there's some deep spiritual truth, they shouldn't have to pay some priest. It's like the old story within entheogens. I've talked about this. The evolution, for instance, of the Siberian use of Amanita muscaria. Now, this is a deliriant, and in lower or properly processed doses, it's a psychedelic, an interesting one. What happened is that people used to take the Amanita mushrooms, and they would have negative and positive effects. At some point, someone realized, and I don't want to know how they did this, that if you fed it to a reindeer and then drank the reindeer's piss, and I have no clue how this happened. I'm sure the local piss eater discovered it by accident, I'm sure. Or he was sucking his reindeer's cock and it just pissed down his throat and then he got high off of it or something. Stranger things have happened, I'm sure, within the drug-using world. And realized that it was a better experience. And so people got the idea, we'll drink each other's piss to get high. And so they started doing that. At some point, the shaman convinced the people that they should be the only ones to imbibe the mushroom itself, and they would give their piss as a sacrament to people. And so then they became a priestly class. What had before been a more collective spiritual experience became centralized, thus corrupted, and became for profit. Oh yeah, I'll give you your sacrament, but that goat over there looks tasty. How about you give that to the temple? I think I want to eat well. The gods commanded, otherwise I can't piss down your throat. I know it's a funny situation, but how is that any less weird than any other religion? Oh, drink my blood, eat my flesh. Abstain from some sort of food. You're not allowed to eat pork. You're not allowed to eat shellfish. It's fucked up, dude. There's no point to it. Fucking Jack Dorsey. Ooh, you go protect religion. Yeah, what you should be trying to do is protect your platform from collapsing, but you're not doing a very good job of it, Jack. It's just sort of the way it is. Thank goodness if it does collapse. I guess having a good Gab account will be funnier at that point. That's about all. Peace out.